Hi, beautiful ones. My intention with the Shamangelic Healing podcast is to be a platform that explores real-life issues and provides you with valuable insights and practical tools to support you on your journey of healing core wounds and reclaiming your power and manifesting a thriving, impactful life that you absolutely love. You see, it's my dream to inspire millions to shine. So if you find these topics valuable, please take a moment and share the podcast and leave us a rave review. This helps the podcast grow and reach the people that would greatly benefit from these insights. Thank you so much for tuning in and investing in your personal development. I'm right here walking this journey with you. So let's dive into this episode. Welcome to the Shamangelic Healing Podcast. Special treat for you today. We have Jake Woodard here, who has been visiting Sedona in the last week while I was on vacation in Costa Rica, losing my voice on zip line and having a lot of fun. So if you're listening, I sound a little extra hoarse because the fun meter has been going wild lately. And what I'm so grateful. You guys stayed in my house while I was away, and it was great to have you here.
It's not just a house; this is a sanctuary.
You stayed here at the sanctuary.
This place is beautiful.
Yeah, happy to have you and Melissa here while I was traipsing around Costa Rica, and so excited to dive in with you today about balancing the feminine and masculine. One of the things you're going to find with Jake, which is you're one of my favorite humans, bro. Because
likewise,
I feel you're like very much of a twin soul, someone who is passionate, deeply passionate about healing and transformation. And, you're an incredible energy healer. You're a positivitarian is what I would call someone who is just all about vibration and all about positivity and learning how to raise your vibration through doing the inner work and balancing the feminine and masculine. And you have a wonderful podcast, Awake with Jake. So you got to go tune in to his podcast. I was on your show a while back. It was episode number 68. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Great episode, by the way. You don't want to miss that one.
Yeah.
All about conscious relationships is really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So we could talk forever about things. So today, we're going to dive in about balancing the feminine and masculine, which is really a deep, passionate body of work for you. Yeah. So first of all, I just want to say it's so good to connect and have you here in Sedona, and thank you for playing and taking care of yourself.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah.
Truly a blessing. As we were driving in today, I was saying to Melissa, my partner, about what a dream this life is. It was only 6 years ago I was working at this job that I just wasn't finding fulfilling. Yeah. And now here I am driving down through these beautiful red rocks and coming to your sanctuary and doing this interview. It's like that life is possible, but you have to be willing to go through your dark shadows, the pain, and release that. Yeah. And when I started doing that and I started healing myself from all the abuse and the trauma and the stuff I went through, was when I found this deep desire to want to help people and to shift the vibration from more of like an ego dense vibration more back into love. Yeah. And I really believe that's possible for all of us to live in a state most of the time. I'm not gonna say you're always gonna live there, but most of the time where you feel balanced, where you feel grounded, where you feel open, receptive, not going through life guarded and on edge. That was me most of my life. I was angry because of the abuse that I went through in my childhood, my father trying to kill me multiple times, like all these different things, and my sister being a heroin addict and having drug dealers show up at the house in the middle of the night, knocking on the door looking to collect her with guns. And I went through my own struggles too with obesity and porn addiction and alcoholism, and I went through all these different things, which was actually an initiation for me to awaken. And I think a lot of times people in life, they go through things and we become the victim, and we allow our pain to become our standard for life. And that's just how we should live because we don't know any better. But that's the thing, is when you start to awaken, you start to see just that little glimpse of hope, that little glimpse of light, everything begins to shift.
I really appreciate that you are sharing so vulnerable about your past, and that just because you've had trauma doesn't mean it has to stay that way, or just because there has been necessary walls at times for protection, and sedation and victimhood until we are able to rewrite the story, that sometimes those forms of armoring are just something that we're buying time with until we're saying, you know what, it doesn't have to stay like this. Just because it's been like this, or my family made these choices, or I had these experiences, doesn't mean like this is it. There's a ceiling to my happiness or my pain, that it always has to stay the same. And this is where transformation comes in. And I love that you're willing to go into the dark places and be honest about it. But also it takes a real courageous leap to say, I'm going to choose something else. Because if that's been the vibration of family and what you've known for so long, there can be this misconception that this is all there is, and that's, a happy life, a thriving life, a healthy life is for somebody else. That's not for me. So what was it that was a pivot point for you, where there was a light that was like, hey, maybe there's another way? Because we don't know there's another way until we know. So what was something that helped you shift your perspective enough to say, well, maybe there's another way. Maybe I could choose differently. Maybe I could live a different kind of life.
I didn't even know it at the time when I experienced it, but I was 13 years old, and I had just found out my sister was doing heroin. And for anybody listening right now that's ever dealt with a drug addict before,
tough. Yeah,
it's a whole different type of person. Yeah. It's like a demon is lodged inside of them. And Jocelyn was 4 years older, so she was about 17 at the time. And she was my hero. Jocelyn was the best person. She was funny, she was popular, she was outgoing, smart, and she was just courageous. And that's probably actually what led her down the path of drugs, because she'd try anything. And the one person she didn't fear, who was the craziest person on the planet at the time, was my father. And she would always stand up to my father, and she took the brunt of the abuse from my dad. And now I have a great relationship with my father. He's an amazing person, and he's done so much transformation himself just because of my own healing. And it brings tears in my eyes because I'm proud of him. Yeah. And I'm also proud of myself because of what I've escaped.
You gave him permission to,
yeah.
And I think I want to acknowledge you doing your own work allows forgiveness, allows people to be where they are without having to change, whether they change or not, whether they apologize or not.
Yeah.
To bring back to him that level of love probably that he didn't have ever, or else he wouldn't have been having those experiences, passing those on to you and your sister. That is one of the most powerful transformations, when you've hurt somebody and there's forgiveness and there's still an openness and the walls aren't there anymore. There needs to be boundaries until there's,
definitely boundaries.
Yeah, for sure. And we can dive into that as well. But, how powerful to heal this in the bloodline.
Yeah.
To actually bring a more feminine energy back to an aggressive man.
It's all about the feminine with that. The inner world and the healing is all about the feminine. And we all have both masculine and feminine energies. We're going to get more into that. But I was 13 at the time. My older sister and I, Jocelyn, had gotten into a fight. And this wasn't like your typical brother-sister fight. We were, she was high on crack cocaine, strung out in the kitchen. And we're going back and forth. At this point, I'm fighting for survival. And she pulled out a kitchen knife, a 9-inch kitchen knife. And she's like, I'm going to stab you with this. And she started coming at me, and I ran in my bedroom, and I slammed the door, and I locked it. And I'm laying on the ground, carpet, and I'm punching the ground so hard and just crying and wailing and just crying and screaming like, God, why me? Why me?
Right.
And I didn't understand it. I was just so angry and sad and hurt. And I looked up in the corner of my room, and I had a 20-gauge shotgun that I kept there for protection against drug dealers showing up in the middle of the night. Because you just never knew. When you're a little kid, you're living out in the middle of the country, where I grew up on farmland. I grew up on working on farms and stuff. You had a shotgun in your room because you didn't know who was coming. And I looked at the shotgun and I thought to myself, what if I just end all this right now? And in that moment of deep despair and suffering, I had this vibrational energy come down through me. And I heard this voice. And at that time, I had no idea what this was. I thought I was going crazy. But it was the voice of source or God energy. Mm-hmm. And it spoke to me and it said, you're not permitted to leave yet because you have great work here to do.
Amen to that. I'm so like, I want to just acknowledge divine intervention here, and that even at 14, the willingness, especially in such a heightened state of anxiety and fight or flight, and you know, sometimes we get to those places where like the checkout is maybe, you know, an option. Like, hey, I don't see a way to figure this out any other way than just like the ultimate checkout, take my life. And how far you have come from that place. But also the willingness for a 14-year-old, when we talk about masculinity, you know, that is in the space of despair, but to hear it. That's a feminine thing, to actually to hear it, to listen to it, and to give weight to it instead of ignore it. I think we lose a lot of people in that space that aren't listening and that aren't ready or willing to actually hear, wait a second, we have plans for you. Yeah. You've got great things coming, and I appreciate that divine intervention, because you're certainly working on behalf of universal consciousness in your work, and you're doing wonderful things. And,
thank you.
And seeing that as a classroom, whatever it is, whatever trauma, whatever, like, I'm being chased by a knife, there's drug dealers in my house, a lot of crazy stories that you've experienced, me too. And it's like seeing that as a classroom for the soul, that it would take that experience of ultimate despair, like what the heck is happening, in order for that space to be open to receive that intervention. Because if you had just heard that while you're riding your bike, I don't know if it would have had that much weight.
Yeah. Well, pain is the catalyst.
Pain is, it's a, you know, unfortunately, but fortunately, I want to acknowledge the pain that everybody listening or watching is currently experiencing, in whatever form that is, whether that's in the form of addiction or a heartbreak or abuse, whatever pain that is, or unhappiness, you know, grief, depression, and just I want to pause for a moment to recognize how powerful that pain is, and it's an opportunity. It's knocking on what is wanting and needing to be looked at. So in this situation, this message comes down. Then what happens?
I decided to start changing. You know, like, I fast forward, you know, through 10 years of absolute suffering, you know, from alcoholism to fighting, getting dragged out of bar rooms, getting blacked out drunk, all the crazy stuff, toxic relationships and everything. I landed me about 23 years old, and I had like this profound awakening of just like, I'm here to serve. I don't know why I feel this, but like, I want to serve. I want to help people. And I've always really had that feeling of wanting to help people, because I even remember, like, I was in second grade on the school bus. One of my best friends at the time, Colin Stewart was his name, he had gotten his yo-yo all tangled up. And I remember I was like, give me that. I want to fix it, right? And I took it all apart, took like 30 minutes, and I put it all back together. It was like shiny, brand new, handed it back to him, working perfect. And he's like, wow, man, you're really good at helping people. And I was just like, it felt so good to help someone. And like, that planted that seed later in life. At 23 years old, I'm working at this job, construction, for a utility company, making great money. It's the dream job. Nobody leaves this company kind of thing. And all of a sudden I'm having like this like really powerful calling of, it's time to serve. It's time to serve.
Time to serve.
And it was that moment that I was like, I got to do something different. And I started to really put into action to leave that job and become an entrepreneur. And you know, I started out with physical fitness coaching. You know, that's why I wanted to help people lose weight, because I thought that was the key. But the deeper I went into my own healing, I was like, wow, there's something here. There's something with the emotions and the spirit. And you start working with the energy, and then you start making changes in that realm. Everything, the physical starts changing too, because, you know, as above, so below.
Right.
And that's when the thing starts changing.
There usually is some kind of wake-up call that catalyzes something. In this case, before that was kind of more desperation. Sometimes that's the catalyst, is desperation. Like, it's so bad, I can't stand this any longer. And then sometimes there's inspiration, which is like, I want to serve. I want to move forward. And it doesn't matter. There's no better like form of catalyst. It both move us forward. But wherever you are, there is this place of, I've got to let go of where I am to become where I'm going, to become who I'm meant to be. I've got to let go of this identity of, you know, the one that was fighting and protecting and drunk and abusive, and like same here. I'm very much like into material things and like eating to sedate, definitely drinking to sedate, a lot of relationship conflict. And it was like, you know what, there's got to be something else here.
Yeah.
And recognizing and celebrating that inner knowing. Everyone listening or watching has an inner knowing. Whether we're courageous enough to hear it, willing enough to take action upon it, is whether or not it stays dormant or whether it gets activated and manifested. And if you can do it, and if I can do it, and everybody listening and watching can do it, and you might think, but no, that's, you know, this life, who, me? Why me? Who, me? That's for somebody else. But everybody has a call at a soul level, whether it's to care, you know, to midwife children, whether it's to be an author, whether it is to be a teacher, whether it is to be a fitness nutrition coach or a spiritual coach, or like maybe you're just all about numbers and accounting, whatever it is, like you have a gift and the call is real. And I want to just acknowledge that, because we're not that special or different from anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, we're all the same.
We're having the human
anyway.
Experience, and each of us has this soul, this calling for the soul. Ours is similar calling. Yeah. That's why we relate so. That's why we resonate so well. And you know, I want to. And sometimes addiction, and sometimes abuse, and sometimes heartbreak, is what it takes to do the wake up. That's why I love your podcast. Is like Awake with Jake. You know, it's like, yeah, let's wake up together. And I celebrate that a man so young that had such a background can make that transformation. And I think it's very valuable. You know, people think, oh, well, Anahata, you were probably just raised in an ashram. I'm like, no. And I think that gives other people permission, if they look like you and if they have a past like you have had, or if they've danced themselves with addiction or have had physical abuse issues, instead of just somebody who seems to, walk on water and it was easy. It's like, no, this is a transformation process. And the deeper, the more challenging the classroom, the more powerful the transformation.
Right.
And I think that makes you more relatable to people that are going through these things, that if you or I hadn't experienced addiction or abuse or heartbreak or fear in any part of our life, then we wouldn't be able to relate to what people are going through now. So what do you think was out of balance with you in your feminine or masculine, that was more of the toxic times in your life, or the toxic behavior?
So I would say that I was never shown how to be healthy masculine. And the environment that I grew up in repressed the feminine, repressed all the emotions. Don't cry. I'll beat you for crying. You're gonna cry more if you keep crying. Like all those things, like don't be a baby, all that stuff. And a lot of men have heard this, a lot of women have heard this as well. Women get it in the sense of, you're too emotionally crazy. You're too sensitive. Yeah. But that's the wounded masculine that's projecting that from the ego, trying to control the feminine, the waves of the feminine, the feelings of the feminine, the emotions, the intuition. And those are all things I didn't cultivate, but I had inside of me. Ever since I was young, I always had these strong intuitive feelings. And I got really good with intuition because I could look deeply into my sister's eyes, and I would tell when she was on drugs. No one else could see it, but I could just feel it when she was about to overdose, or not overdose, but when she was about to do drugs. I could feel it. I could just feel the shift in her energy. I would watch her aura. And when you train yourself at a young age to study people's energies, not just their physical body, not just their words, but you can see the vibration of their energy shift when they're about to do something. Yeah. And you start reading that, same thing with my dad. Because I know my dad was about to lose it. Like I could just feel his energy start to like close, and it's like almost like a darkness would come down. And his aura would change, his energetic field would change. So I started cultivating that intuition a lot. But as I started to become more of a quote unquote man's man, which is, you know, I would feel like I was more like the macho man type, tough guy. I repressed my feminine, and I didn't cry or feel anything for years. I was numb. I was just numb with alcohol, porn, anything I could find to numb myself. And it's interesting because all the numbing that I did, it didn't work. It didn't work.
It didn't work for me either, Jake.
No, it doesn't work.
But we both gave it a really good try, though.
Really good try. It doesn't work.
Well, you know, because we're actually numbing the feminine.
Yeah.
Which also doesn't work.
No.
You know, when we're oppressing that feminine intuition, the feminine creativity, emotions are intelligent. You know, it's okay for us to be sad or afraid or, you know, sensitive in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Like sensing is our GPS. It tells us when something's not right. It tells us when to be afraid. Like it sense is when like somebody isn't safe to be around. It tells us our yes in life and our no in life. And when we oppress that feminine, that doesn't work either. And I think that alcohol or sedating or running or just overcompensating with I'm so tough, you know, kind of toxic masculine is really just masking this part of the feminine that really wants attention, to be loved, to be nurtured, to be held.
Right.
And that our emotions really just want to be honored.
Yeah, because the masculine is the seer and the feminine is the seen. So the feminine is the unfolding of creation. And the masculine is the present consciousness, and that exists within all of us. So when you have this divine balance within yourself, and when I say balance, I don't mean 50-50. Because you could be 80% feminine, 20% masculine, which you may be, and balanced. I could be 80% masculine and 20% feminine and balanced. It's not this perfect 50-50 balance. And I've learned that within myself because I find myself to be more of a masculine core person. This is really important for people to know, to discover your core energy, and I have a free quiz that people can do with that. To discover your core energy, your natural core energy will serve you so much in life, especially in your romantic relationships. Because if you don't know that you're a feminine core person, and that's what you desire most is to be in your feminine, and you're with a person that doesn't support the feminine energy or have connection to their own feminine energy, and you start to become imbalanced. Right. And you might even find yourself in the same energy field, masculine, repelling each other, feminine, repelling each other. And there's none of that sexual polarity that brings people together and has that dynamic connection. So that's why it's so important to first learn your core energy. And most women have more of a feminine core. Most men have more of a masculine core, but there are men with a feminine core and there are women with a feminine core. What I've learned a lot working with women is what I've seen is they think they have a masculine core because they've been stuffed into this masculine grid of work and business and success and achievement. And it's all about cultivating the masculine. But they've repressed their feminine so deeply, they're not even honoring it. So they're seeing this manifest in their body as this too tense, it's rigid, it's too structured, and it's getting too like bound up. And when you activate your feminine, it just breaks open inside of you all this flow of feelings, because that's the feminine. And when that opens up inside of you, normally at first, or most people like me, a lot of crying. Yeah. A lot. And crying can be in two different ways. You know, there's the victim crying, and then there's the crying for healing. And I believe that depends on your intention and where you are with it. So I think that when we activate our feminine essence, and men too, especially listening, because I know a lot of men, well, feminine energy, you know, it's like, when we activate that feminine energy and we connect to our heart, we can then do that with a partner as well. And if you don't do that, you don't integrate with your feminine, then it's near impossible to do that in the outer world. It's very difficult, because you'll never understand, and this is coming from, I want to add one more thing here. As a masculine man, you'll never understand the feelings and the sensitivity and the flow of the feminine if you're not integrated with your own feminine, because you'll live right here in your mind. And you'll try to see her from your mind, but she doesn't want to be seen from your mind. She wants to be felt from the depth of your heart and consciousness.
And that's where there is a lot of conflict in relationships, because there isn't an understanding at a deeper level beyond sexuality, beyond gender. Who is the core essence of this person? And wanting to know what their feels are, what their dreams are, what their truth is, and also where their pain is and where their fears are, so that we can navigate without hurting each other. And that will take, for men and women, a balance of their feminine and masculine energies. The feminine to be able to listen, to hold space, to be patient, and the masculine to be courageous enough to hold space and to talk about uncomfortable issues, to have the courage to not sedate or ignore, but to address and feel. And especially if the masculine has been oppressing the feelings, it can feel very unsettling and out of control to be facing and feeling emotions or dealing with topics that makes us feel uncomfortable, where we'd rather just run, hide, sedate, blame, ignore, or distract, and just stop it or fix it. The masculine wants to fix it real quick, which is we haven't gotten to the core essence or the core feelings. It feels like a woman can feel like she's steamrolled in that place where trying to fix it from the head of like, well, just do this. You're like, no, there's more to it. Like, no, there isn't. Just do this. And this balance that can happen within each man and woman, that even if we have more of a masculine core or a feminine core, this integration that can happen, that I like to also think of it not just as feminine and masculine, but conscious feminine and conscious masculine, and evolving out of the unconscious feminine that can be dramatic and chaotic and seductive and manipulative and insecure, and the unconscious masculine that can be a bully and arrogant and egotistical and forceful and oppressive. And so I want to add another caveat to that we're looking at also not just feminine or masculine, but evolving the unhealthy. Like you said, hey, I only knew toxic masculinity to bully. I didn't know that the healthy masculine. What are the qualities you think that you've upgraded from the toxic masculine into what does conscious masculine look, feel, and sound like?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind and heart for me is leading with love and integrity. It's for the masculine to be able to lead with love and integrity. And also in parallel to that is having a divine purpose and like having like a true mission here, not just serving your ego, to serve something deeper than just your ego. Because one of the masculine's deepest yearnings is to have a mission here. And when they don't, they'll find everything they can, like busyness, to distract them from having to find their purpose, having to be here for something greater than just their ego needs, to fulfill the ego needs of lust, materialism, power, all this stuff, control. So for me, when cultivating masculine energy, it's really about learning to make strong decisions, to become more grounded, to be more intentional, to be more present in the moment. The presence of the masculine draws out the love of the feminine. Because what I've learned in my own relationship with Melissa, when I'm not being super present, and not saying I'm like laser present all day long, but when I'm not being present or I'm being distracted, I'll notice that she'll start to like pull away and drift away, or she'll bring me into it and show me like my presence is not really there in that moment. And that's why she's such a great reflection of me in that moment. Like her sage-like wisdom brings that out of me. So in moments like that, I have to become deeper and drop in deeper into my present moment, or into the present moment. It's the unfolding of the consciousness with the masculine. And as I've learned, another thing too, with the feminine masculine dynamics is very interesting, this is coming through as well, is when the feminine doesn't feel emotionally safe and like the masculine can lead, they start to take on the masculine role. And when that happens, then now you have the two masculines clashing and the polarity is being stripped away. And this happens so often in relationships, and I've experienced this myself in relationships, and it's something to be so conscious about, because the feminine wants to feel like they can be in their feminine essence, being safe, being dropped in, and being surrendered in that energy. And where the masculine can lead in the container of the relationship. And not to say that the feminine can't lead, because it absolutely can, and they can do a great job at it. But the masculine desire is to take the lead of the relationship. And they want to lead the relationship, not necessarily all the time, but a masculine person wants to lead. And that's why I always say to masculine people, lead with love and integrity, because if she don't trust you, she won't open her heart to you.
Or the rest of her body, or her deepest secrets, her greatest desires. I appreciate that you said, a woman wants to be held by the masculine. And then if she feels safe, then her flower can blossom, whether that's her creativity, whether that's her passion, whether that is her ideas, her emotions, her juiciness. But what happens a lot of times is in that masculine wanting to lead without connection, without presence, can lead in the wrong direction or lead in a way in which he doesn't feel safe.
Yeah, because he's leading with his ego.
He's leading with his ego. And without understanding of what are your needs and including that in the leadership, in the direction of we're going, that consideration of what are your needs, what are you feeling. And I was just dealing with this with a couple the other day where, from that masculine oppressing her physically and her voice, she doesn't always feel safe to express. And he's, in that place of impatience, so just jumps to conclusions, or if she is expressing and he's in his head, he's not present, he's not hearing, he's not getting it, and so she doesn't feel heard. So you said, so sometimes she'll become masculine, and sometimes she also will just shut down.
Yeah.
She'll just disconnect, which will definitely affect the love in the relationship, and of course in the bedroom, and the passion in the relationship, because if a woman doesn't feel that she is held and safe, the best part of her won't be showing up in the relationship. And that's the part that he wants anyway.
Yeah. It's what the masculine craves.
It's what the masculine
it's like,
craves.
look at this flower right here.
Right.
You have the stem, which is the holding of the flower. The masculine stem holding the beautiful opening of the flower. And that's, you see it all through nature. Look at the riverbed, holding the gentle flow of the water, the feminine water.
Yeah.
And that works in the same way in relationship. And, as you were talking about that couple you said you're working with, something that came through, and that was, she's going into her masculine in like an unconscious way as a protective barrier. If she cultivated her inner masculine, she would have the ability to say, no, this doesn't serve me right now. Instead of being like, no, get away from me, which is like an unhealthy masculine trying to set a boundary in like a wounded way. But what I've seen with women, when they cultivate their inner masculine and the healthy relationship with their inner masculine, they can set a protective barrier. And they can say, in this instance, to a man, you're not serving me right now. This doesn't serve me. This doesn't align with me. This doesn't resonate
listening.
with me. You're not listening. And whatever that boundary needs to be, that's what they will be able to speak into existence and to express that too. Because I think a lot of people that I've worked with and seen over the years is it's also they don't have a cultivated inner masculine, and women especially,
It's exactly what we talked about, the courage to express, and working with him about the willingness to be more feminine, to be more
gentle.
open, to be a better listener, presence, for him to hold the container,
to receive her energy.
Yes. And so what we're talking about within the male, in this example, is where the men can actually become more feminine, so that they're more balanced and more safe for the feminine. And then the woman needs to be able to express more and be honest and not hide what she's feeling and not just ignore that that's not okay, but have the courage to say no, and not, as women, that tendency to appease others, to be the accommodator, take care of everybody else at the expense of yourself. You're last, you don't matter. So when we heard this quite a bit in our upbringing, your voice doesn't matter, he's more important, those kinds of things. And so in that place, there's some healing that happens within the feminine to actually say, oh, wait a second here, I do matter, and I do have a voice here. And in having said that at different times, women get labeled a bitch or troublesome or high maintenance because they actually have an opinion, or they actually have ideas or a voice, and that in the workplace has often been labeled, as a troublemaker rather than as somebody that's saying, hey, there's something not right here, and have it been shamed for it, just like you were shamed for if you cried. Women are shamed for saying no, or having an opinion that is contrary to what the leader wants, whether that's male or female, and that no, it's a dictatorship, shut up. And so in relationships, women can feel that, and it can be a dance of the masculine and feminine, where we look at what was it like growing up. Was your voice honored? Was crying honored or respected? Was there a safe space for you? Because those are going to be coming up. Those are going to be coming up in the relationship. Those are going to be the barriers that we have to get over, our fear of expressing, or our fear of holding space for someone else's emotion.
Right. Because both people need to have the ability to do that.
It's going to take the healing at the core level of whatever toxic feminine or masculine, which it can be both, aspects are working in your communication or internally about relating to another person, so that it can be safe, and then the relationship can go deeper. What I heard you say was some of the toxic masculinity or some of the healthy conscious is presence. What do you think right now, since let's look at some of the toxic masculinity that is shifting, or that humanity is being invited to evolve to more of a healthy masculine in its leadership, in its presence and integrity. I love those words. I really feel that is really embodies the healthy masculine. How can us as women or men move from that fear, oppression, walls, bullying, egocentric? What's the process of shifting that and evolving that to more healthy, conscious, masculine?
To go through the shadows of your pain. And that's really we have to go through an evolution of our own healing, which is really an internal thing, which is the feminine, because we live in such an external world, and most people are living more of an external life, and they live a very little internal life. So the first thing is to get connected with your inner world, and to start feeling all your deeply repressed stuff, maybe not all of it at once, but really start connecting, doing things like inner child work, and bringing up those repressed feelings and that trauma that's lodged in your body. Because that's exactly what happens when you go through a traumatic experience. It gets deeply lodged in your body, and it stays there until you release it and bring it up. So for me, in my experience, what I learned is bringing up that emotion and releasing it and giving it up and just letting it go. Because it's not yours to carry anymore. And that's the thing, is so many people are carrying these old patterns, these old wounds inside of themselves, so they can't even feel. And because their mind has pulled them so far away from their body, they're not embodied. It's like their mind is trying to protect them. Their ego is trying to protect them, because that's what the ego does. It's all about protection. It wants to protect the person, so it keeps them away from the pain in their body. But that's where the juiciness of life lives, in the transformation, is when you get back into your body and you become the embodiment of everything you know. Because, well, maybe not everything, I don't know if that'd even be possible, but I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day who's a very wise soul. And I said, can you imagine if you embodied 10% of what you knew? Just 10%. You would be one of the most conscious people on the planet. Because he knows so much, right? He has such great wisdom. I'm like, let's apply some of this to your life and what you're struggling with. I was kind of working with him a little bit. And he's like, wow, that's such a great point, man. And I think most people struggle with that. They know so much. The mind knows so much, but they're not embodied. And the real work comes from the embodiment of what you're learning. Not just knowing it at a mind level, but bringing it down into the body to integrate with that. And in order to get embodied, you have to pull out the stuff that's blocking you from being embodied. And you can feel it in a person too, who's embodied and who's not. I can look at a picture of a person and see how embodied they are. When they talk, I can feel the resonance of their being. And that's just my own practices of tuning into that. But everyone has that ability to do that. You can feel when a person's embodied and you can feel when a person's in their mind. And the more work that you do, the more embodied you become, more grounded you become. Because I think a lot of us have experienced a very flighty masculine, which is of the mind, and it keeps us distracted and wavy in life. We're so flighty. We're like a bunch of Peter Pans flying around, right? And as we get down more to the yin essence, which is the feminine, connecting to earth and getting back down into our body, which our body is of this earth, our body's of nature. So that creation is the feminine. So our masculine minds, the unconscious masculine, has pulled us so far out of our bodies. We have to reconnect and integrate with the feminine essence, the yin essence of the mother earth, the cosmic mother, the divine mother, and working with that energy down into our body. And that's really where we start to experience transformation and healing, because we're purging out this vessel, not only just the physical, but also the emotional and the energy behind it.
I love you, all about it. That, doing the inner work.
Yeah.
Doing the inner work. And understandable that both you and I, for a period of time, had like intense walls and deep patterns of sedation or projection or blaming and acting out in different ways. And I want to acknowledge that buys you some time, but it's not a long-term coping mechanism. At some point, we find that it just doesn't work to be in the mind all the time. It doesn't work if I just try to push and force something. A lot of my male clients in particular that are successful in business, but their heart is like stone.
Yeah.
And they can't relate to their wife or their children, and they don't really know how to do this caring thing.
Yeah.
They care, but they don't know how, because it also hasn't been modeled for them. How to be caring, how to be patient, how to be playful, how to be creative. And so the safe space is to land back into the intellect. And that journey of let's go into the places where the intellect is protecting, like that, the fear and the walls and the addiction. It's like there's something under that, and maybe we don't have the support or the maturity or the consciousness at 16 to get that help, or at 20 or 22 or 35 or 40, whatever it is. But when you are starting to awaken, like that's the opportunity to be like, okay, now we get to go back and hold that little boy or that little girl. We get to go back and let them know that it's going to be okay and that they're safe, and give them the support, love, acknowledgement, attention, safety that perhaps in those moments of childhood or young adulthood or adulthood, maybe it was yesterday, where we just didn't feel safe or heard, and there's a trauma or a wound, and to go back and reparent that part. And that's going to be the feminine. It's going to take massive masculine courage, like helleballs, to go like, I'm going into the shadow. And like, I feel that even the transformational work to do it takes courage. The conscious masculine, to be honest, to find integrity again, means the courage and the willingness to look honestly, where there's things that are out of integrity with our own bodies, our own beliefs, our own pain, our own emotions, and to go to that place now with the feminine, to be able to hold that, not with blame, with total patience, with total presence, and just, I love you, I'm here for you. Nurturing, that to bring the feminine forward, that we all really deeply
Which is
need.
the divine mother.
Which is the divine mother.
Yeah.
And I mean,
we all have that too.
We all have
regardless
that.
of your earth mother, like we all have the divine mother.
And most of us weren't modeled that either. Like you said, hey, I wasn't modeled divine masculine. No. I wasn't modeled healthy feminine. My mom worked 2 jobs. She was like emotionally just kind of a flat line, just robotic, going through the motions. And I love her. She's just a sweetheart. And her love language was, okay, I'll make the money, because my dad wasn't really showing up in that way. And her love language, she felt more comfortable in her head than in her nurturing. And so I wasn't really modeled that divine feminine either. And it wasn't until I was in my healing practice where I had done a lot of my healing work, the shamanic energy work, and a lot of healing for my own trauma. And you said tears came for you and rage came for me.
Yeah.
Like the fire, like anger that was
and then
oppressed.
came tears.
Then came tears,
Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes, you get to give space for it to be whatever it is. But I remember with my, in my healing practice, I didn't know how to deliver that to somebody. I cared, but I didn't know how to hold somebody in a frequency that I hadn't moved through my body yet.
Yeah.
I had received it from Divine Mother.
All in the mind.
Right, all in the mind. It's like, what's the technique?
Yeah.
Robot.
Strategies, it's
strategies,
doesn't
what's
work.
the tool,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, in the very beginning of my healing practice, I just asked her, I'm like, Divine Mother, show me, because I don't know. And she came into my body and took over, and it was just it just comes into my head, always goes to the side, my hands go like this, and it's just like, my eyes close and my heart melts, and it's just the sweetest little yummy yum that, like, I've held 250-pound professional boxers in this posture.
Yeah.
Billionaires, ex-cons that are rapists. I've held women of all ages, people that have experienced so many different traumas, and just that Divine Mother energy, allowing it to move through, has been the sweetest nectar, and to be able to pass that through is the sweetest gift. And so,
because you're embodied.
It took some time. There wasn't space, Jake, to be embodied until all the shit had to get. So you're absolutely right in the process of, we got to excavate the things that are in the way of the divinity, excavate the victim, the anger, the rage, the sadness, the pain, the walls, the unworthiness. We've got to excavate those things. And then,
little by little too. Like, don't try to do it all at once. It's too hard.
It's a process for sure.
Be gentle with yourself too. That's so important. It's something that I think even sometimes still to this day I get caught up in this idea of needing to have it all done, have it all figured out. And it's like, what's the rush? That's
the feminine of, like, honor the process.
Yeah, lean into it and just enjoy where you are right now, because where you are is exactly where you need to be. It's perfect in this moment. And we get so caught up in our egos trying to control things. Control. And the reason why we try to control everyone is because we feel insecure within ourselves.
Yeah. And that, understandably so. There's justifiable reasons that we have felt insecure or unsafe, based on what you're sharing and what people have heard in my story. It's understandable that you have felt that way, and it doesn't have to stay that way.
Right.
Just because something happened doesn't mean it has to keep you from experiencing something new. What was a tool or a resource that really helped in your inner child work, that helped you with that excavation of the density or the trauma and the healing of that? What are some things that have helped you?
There's many things. And I actually think one of the simplest things is when I had went through a really hard breakup at one point in my life, I basically was like, all right, I'm all in on my healing. I moved into the mountains of California, and I'm like, it's time to really, like, get to know who I am at a soul level, not at an ego level. And so every single day for 6 months straight, I would go into the mountains with nothing but a book bag and a bottle of water into, like, the desert. And I would walk, I would talk, I would cry. And I would give myself permission to feel, because I hadn't felt. Like, I was too in my mind, I wasn't feeling. So I would literally say, I give myself permission to feel. I give myself permission to feel my pain. I give myself permission to feel my hurt. And all of a sudden, after I kept screaming this out into the desert, just hours and hours, I started to feel it, and it just started to come up, and I would just cry and cry and cry. And about 4 months into that, I remember dropping down on my knees and just literally just, like, holding my arms out and just being like, I give it up. I'm like, I surrender. That's what it was. And I was like, I surrender to this. Surrender this pain. I give it up. And it was like, well, you're talking about the Divine Mother. It was the same experience for me. It was like she was just holding me as I was just purging all of this anger and sadness and trauma, everything I had in my body. And I was just releasing it all. And I kept going through that. And a couple months later, I was walking through the woods again by myself on one of my many hikes. And I started laughing. And it was this deep belly laugh, like the joyful laugh that I know you carry yourself. And I'm like, what the hell are you laughing at? You're going crazy, like in the middle of nowhere by yourself right now. And I'm laughing, I'm giggling. And that was my childlike innocence that had been returned to me. And that's what the Divine Mother told me. The message I got was like, your joy is now being returned to you. Because when we're children, 99.9% of us, angel wings clipped right from us at the time we're born. You know, we're all given these angel wings. I'm using angel wings in a metaphor, but when we're born, these angel wings are cut from us, and we lose our innocence, we lose our playfulness, and we have to reclaim that innocence. We have to reclaim that light that we once embodied. Because if you look at a child, they are the perfect embodiment of love. That's why when you bring a baby into a room, the whole room goes right to the baby, or a puppy. Another pure, unconditional love. Why is that? Because they're so innocent, because they have such pure joy and bliss. They are the embodiment of love.
And they're in the present moment.
Yeah, when we can reconnect to that, which we can through our inner work, through the healing process, we have the ability to feel that level of joy and love. So it's so important for the people listening right now, like, how do I do this? Just start where you feel called to start. Start with the person. Who's one person in your life that hurt you so deeply that you need to forgive? Because when I started to forgive my father, at first I was like, I can't forgive him. I hate him.
No way. Anybody but him.
Everything, every part of me did not want to forgive him. I sat down on a couch one day, and it feels like just yesterday, and I just envisioned his face. I dropped into a meditation, and I envisioned his face, and I just started to cry. And it was these deep tears that were coming down my face and hitting the ground so hard, it sounded like rocks hitting the floor. And that process of forgiveness was never about my dad. It was an internal act of self-love. And I never even had a conversation with my dad about it. 99.9% of the healing I did with my dad, I never even talked to him about. He could have been dead for all at that point, and I still would have had to go through this inner process. Right. People are like, well, I'm not going to talk to my father. I'm not going to talk to my mother for hurting me the way. You don't need to, because it's all an internal process. And the more I changed, the more he actually changed. And then we came back together and chose to have a relationship. And that's the beauty of inner transformation. It's not about the outer. Because when you change the inner, the outer changes.
And it's not about what they do or don't do, whether they change or forgive or apologize. It's not about what they do. I love this process of just giving starting with just giving permission. And hey, if the big nut, like that one's too big to crack, start with something else. You know, get in the practice of giving permission to feel. I'm pissed off. Why are you pissed off? What is really going on? Well, they're not respecting me. Ask, just that self-inquiry.
Ask for help.
Ask for help. Ask for help.
There's so many amazing healers.
There's no way I could have gone through what I went through without help. Definitely. I needed somebody that could excavate with me. For me, the shamanic work was really powerful. Because it went deep, and like I like to get shit done.
Deep, quick.
I like let's go, let's go. As long as I feel safe, respected, and supported, I'll go there. And I had somebody really trustworthy that I could be vulnerable with, that was able to excavate the demons. Like I was like, it wasn't like, it wasn't like, you're meanie. I mean, it was fire, like to the point where my hands almost drew blood. I was so rageful that of different experiences that I just didn't feel was okay. And how it was handled was not okay. And how it was stuffed was not okay. Like there's so much of that that we all carry in different ways. And it's just no wonder I was, throwing alcohol on that for a good part of my life. Because I didn't know how to work with anger in a sacred way. It's okay to be angry, and let's do that in a supportive, safe space. Let's go there. Whether that's journaling, whether that's going out in the desert, if that's hitting a pillow, if it's doing cathartic work like breath work, or trance dance, shaking it off, letting it go, cathartic expression. Get it out. I love that you said give permission to the emotions without judgment. If it's rage, if it's grief, if it's swearing, if whatever it is, give it voice, give it feeling, give it permission, give it freedom without judgment. And journal about it, write about it. Get it out, express it, use a counselor, use a therapist, use
someone
a
you feel
healer,
aligned
God.
with too.
Exactly.
That's a big thing, is work with somebody that you really feel aligned with.
Trust, yeah.
Not just some person because they have a big special title.
Right.
Work with somebody who you really feel a vibrational resonance with, and just sit
safe.
with it.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things to do is, like, before I make like an impulsive response to something, I'll just sit with it and just see how the energy feels as it settles down into my body, which is the embodiment work. You feel that, how it comes into your body. You're like, okay, this feels like a yes. Okay, it feels like a no. And sometimes it'll be right away yes or right away no. Or sometimes it may take 24 hours. It may take a couple days. But feel it in your body. And for people in relationships right now, I'm gonna invite them to think about something. In the partnership that you're in, do you feel a vibrational alignment with your partner? Do you feel like you have a healthy balance between your inner masculine and your inner feminine? And do you feel like you have a balance between the masculine and feminine in the relationship as well? And if you don't, what's out of balance? Are you protecting yourself because you're still holding on to trauma from your childhood, and you have this barrier built in with your masculine shield, and you're protecting your vulnerable heart, which is the feminine? And you have to look at this stuff. And the more you start to look at these things, you're like, oh wow, maybe I really am guarding myself because I'm afraid to be seen. I don't feel worthy of love. And these are real things that I felt these myself. Or maybe we're too much in our mind and we're not seeing our partner. We're not present with our partner. And we're so distracted by work and business and trying to be a somebody in this life. And it's so important just to take, like, especially in the feminine masculine dynamic, the feminine really loves to be acknowledged. The feminine loves to be acknowledged in a sacred, loving way. And so does the masculine as well. Sure. But in the feminine, I call it cultivating my flower. So every single day, I take 5 to 10 minutes where I just cultivate intimacy with my partner, Melissa, not in a sexual way. Because the thing about intimacy with a feminine person, it begins way before the bedroom.
Foreplay is like...
It's everything to the feminine. It's
right?
how you talked to her earlier that day. If you were a dick earlier that day, she holds on to that and holds it in her body and remembers, and she's closed. So you keep doing that over time. You're criticizing her. She's not going to open to you sexually. And when you're trying to have sex with her, she keeps shutting down. You're like, why doesn't she want to have sex with me? You're getting all mad at her.
Right. That
but
just
really
closes it
self-reflect.
even tighter.
Instead of projecting it onto your partner, look within and ask, what part of myself is still closed? What part of my heart is still not available to love? Am I being present? And this works both ways with both people, of course. But I call it cultivating my flower. Every single day, 5 to 10 minutes a day, I practice just really seeing her in a sacred, loving way. And with that, the flower stays open. So when we go to sexual intimacy, it's available, it's there, and it's so much deeper and more profound when you have that true intimate connection. And that's really what intimacy is seeing deep within yourself and being able to go into your own pain, your own healing, and releasing that so you can see another person. Because if you don't, you only see people from your ego level because you're still operating from ego consciousness. And that's where everything really starts to shift, especially in relationships. So take the time to cultivate your flower in relationship.
I love that. Cultivate, that in your partner, and in order to do that first within yourself, that inquiry, like cultivate your own flower first. What am I feeling? What do I need right now? Do I need rest? Do I need acknowledgement? Do I need space? Do I need to be held? What do I need for me? So that you're not expecting that always to come from your partner, so that you're learning how to be self-aware, so that you're bringing more of that self-awareness into the relationship. Because so much of what I find is when both parties, one or both, are shut down and they're not doing their inner work, that creates a lot more communication conflict, a lot more unnecessary misunderstandings, and a lot more drama and fights that definitely affects the intimacy in the relationship. Because if both parties don't feel safe or heard, and we're bitching and arguing all the time, that's not a big turn on, and then you also have to overcome that in order to get back to the place of having great intimacy again. So that means the intimacy is going to be limited, not going to be able to go as deep in the presence. That's why the honeymoon phase is the honeymoon phase. Oh, now we actually are starting to argue, and we don't know how to do that without hurting each other. We don't know how to actively listen. We don't know how to honor each other or cultivate each other's flower. I love that. And so now there's just conflict and hurt, and it's like, what happened to the great sex? And it's like, well, intimacy is a work in progress internally, the process that I heard is give permission and self-inquiry. And
don't project.
Don't project. Like, what is this teaching
stop.
me? What is this showing? What's up for me right now?
Yeah.
What am I attached to? What's going on with me? What's triggered in me right now?
And be honest with yourself too. And like, maybe it's you that is not feeling seen, because the masculine wants to be acknowledged with their giving, and the feminine wants their feelings to be acknowledged. So like the masculine's giving into the container of the relationship, and they want to see like their feminine partner support their giving. Hey, I really appreciate you for showing up the way you are with your presence. I love the way you come into this relationship and you're so honoring of me. You're honoring of my essence. I feel so safe with you. I feel protected. One of the most nurturing things that the feminine can say to the masculine, these words are just divine to the masculine energy. And I love it. I'm sure men listening love it. Is I trust you. In the sense of, I trust you to figure it out. I trust you that you will solve this. I trust that you will lead, or whatever it is. The words I trust, and only if you really truly embody that. I was just going to
say, that has to be
It has to be embodied.
For sure.
If it's not embodied, and she says it from the mind and not from the body, then he'll feel that, and it's fake, right?
Yeah, well, and she's self-abandoning in that space that says, I trust, when
she doesn't.
If he hasn't earned that, and he doesn't really deeply understand her enough to make decisions on her behalf, or considering her feelings in a way, then in that place she's self-abandoned. And that's going down a path that
because trust is everything to the masculine person, and they gotta earn it with the feminine. The feminine's not just gonna, especially an awakened woman, and we're talking about man, woman here right now. This could work for same sex as well. When a woman is awakened, she's not just gonna be like, oh yeah, I trust you. Like, she'll know better because she's using her intuition and discernment. She's sitting with this. Can I trust him? Can I trust him to lead? Can I trust him to be present? Can I trust what he's saying? Can I trust his integrity? And she should sit with those things.
Absolutely.
Because if you can't trust those things, you're not going to open to him.
Right. And women are coming back to this space. I hear the need for validation, that men like to be validated in that way, and it's really beautiful to hear that. And it's a great, wonderful reminder for us women. And women have abandoned their bodies so much. Their feelings, I need to please, or it's on his timing, not my timing. Women are just re-entering our bodies and our intuition. And I do a lot of work, Melissa does a lot of work around the sacred feminine, the reclamation of that. So when we're finally in this space of embodiment of like, wow, I see myself, I love myself, I honor myself, shedding that insecurity, shedding the accommodator, being competitive with other women or body images, and just like coming into this place of our own power and our own juiciness. When a man at that place is like, stop being in your head, I know what I'm doing. When she's expressing from her knowing and her truth. Yeah. When a man doesn't honor that, that's going to be a hell no.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's like you're really not. And so in the place with relationship conflict, I like to look at, well, what's going on within me?
Always within first.
Always. What is going on within me that could be contributing to this? And really taking a deeper look at what is going on within them. Do they is it a control issue? Are they afraid? What is, and that might take some inquiry with them to deeply uncover that if they're willing.
Yeah.
And then there's like, what's the reality of the gaps in the relationship that nobody's paying attention to? We aren't communicating. We want different things. I said yes when I mean no. Our priorities and values are different. Right. I don't like when he does this, but I'm not saying anything. And like, what in the relationship is really not in alignment, and bringing voice to that. And whether that's the woman or the man or, same sex, whoever's bringing that to the table, it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, it does.
It takes the feminine.
And in a loving way, too.
Yeah.
Not in a way where you're angry, projecting on your partner, but like, say, like, I would like to talk to you about this.
Right. Not from a place of blame, but just from a place of caring. And we both, men and women, get to really finesse how we bring those things up, so our language isn't already putting somebody on the defensive.
Yeah.
And like, this
her
is
language
a dance.
is through her body.
Yeah.
you have to be able to read the feminine body, because the body is so expressive for the feminine person. And when the masculine can really see, all about the seer with the masculine, see the feminine body and the movement, her breathing, especially sexually, because sex is like the most vulnerable we are, right? We're totally raw. You can feel her breathing. You can feel her openness, or you can feel her closeness.
Contraction.
Yeah. Pay attention to the feminine body and watch how they move and how they're in their energy too. It's like the aura of the feminine. And you'll know exactly what to give her in the moments when you feel like she's closing down. Oftentimes when the feminine is closing down, it's because the masculine's not present.
Thank you.
In that moment.
Thank you. That is, I love that you expressed that and articulated that, because that's exactly right, because she wants connection. And especially if we're in an intimate space, she's not going to feel safe if you're not connected to her body, then, and your own body in that space. Of course she's not going to feel safe, because she can't trust you in that. She can't trust the partner in that place to drive it in a way that honors, that is aligned, that is safe, that is passionate, that is respectful, if there is a disconnection there. And she can sense it immediately. And women, it's been a journey for us to come back into our bodies and to be present during the sexual experience. And men too, like to be in their heart and not just in the head about performance and like there's a lot of pressure going on in the bedroom.
The feminine, really a big thing too for the masculine people listening, is the feminine takes time to warm up sexually, especially because we were talking about with intimacy earlier. It's an all-day thing, where the feminine is kind of like water. It takes time to boil, where the masculine is like fire, like ready to go, ready to burn, you know. And like, so they have to slow
Dance,
down, breathe, be more intentional, use foreplay. Like those things are so nourishing and opening to the feminine to become available sexually. Because I mean, the sex in the physical, especially in the relationship, is really oftentimes a reflection of the intimacy, of the emotions too. So if you're having disconnected sex with your partner, and you're just having sex with your partner just to please them, and you don't really want to have sex with them, you are not doing them a service.
Or yourself or the relationship, because then when you're having
abandoning yourself, as you were saying,
unclean relationships sexually, that residue will be carried over into conversations. It'll be carried over into the next bedroom experience, where it's just like, okay, that was just guilt sex. Like, I don't really want to do, but I feel obligated, so one or more parties not fully present because they don't really want to be there. They're not really expressing their truth, and so they're having sex where they're not fully there. And so that residue will carry over of like, sex doesn't feel good, my feelings aren't included here, so we're going to create a resistance and a reason not to repeat that. And so it definitely correlates if we're not doing our inner work, if we're not present. I love this conversation. We have to do a whole other one just on sacred sexuality and how the masculine and feminine play. What advice would you have for women that are navigating, balancing their, if they've overcompensated in the masculine, because the masculine has abandoned or bullied or hasn't been safe, or, what advice would you have for women that are more in their masculine?
It ain't gonna be done through the mind.
Can't be done through the mind.
You can use the mind to get into your body, but what I've learned with working with the feminine is about coming back into the body and the embodiment work. So really allowing yourself to go in and through your mind and down into your body in a safe way, to have some type of dance, even primal dance, moving your body in a way. And at first you may feel a lot of anger come up. You may feel shame. You may feel like
awkward,
insecure about how you're dancing, when you're moving. And you can do this by yourself. You can do it with people, but intimacy is cultivated within yourself. So have a practice that you do every single day. Maybe you do it first thing in the morning, where you move your body in a sacred way, in some intense music or some slow music, whatever your intuition is feeling in that moment, without the structure of the masculine energy. Just allow yourself to move and flow and get back in touch with your body. That is so important for the feminine person, because we've overdeveloped our egos and underdeveloped our connection to our heart. And we have to really start listening to the intuition of our vessel, of our body. And when we do that and we have these practices where we start flowing with our feminine, we start activating this magnetic receptive energy, because the feminine is all about the reception of the universe. We activate this receptive energy, and the next thing we know, if we're looking to call in a masculine partner, because we're in our feminine, we're dropped into our feminine, next thing you know, there's conscious masculine energy coming our way. Because you're magnetizing that to you, you're polarizing that opposite sex charge to you when you're practicing being in your feminine. So the embodiment work of the primal movement, of the feminine flowing movement is so amazing. And really just allowing yourself to feel all of the love and the flow going through your body. Yeah. And another important thing here too is being aware of how often you're in your masculine and how often you're in your feminine. Because if you have a feminine core and you're spending 80-90% of your time in your masculine, you're not serving your body to the highest capacity. It's almost like having a car and putting the wrong gasoline in it.
Right.
Like I know with me, I have a masculine core. So doing masculine things, say like working out really intensely or dropping in for a deep meditation, just being very present with myself. I know that cultivating my yang energy is very healthy, and also having the yin essence as well and balance with that. And I can feel when I need the nourishment of feminine essence. And it's always just, it's the way my body speaks to me.
Yeah.
I can tell when my body's become too structured, too rigid. I've been working too much because I'm in my mind, trying to build my successful business, all this stuff, right? That's when I know I need the feminine touch. And maybe it's through my own inner feminine, or I go get a massage, or my partner, like all the feminine is everywhere. That's the thing, is you just got to take a breath in and you're breathing in the nature of feminine.
Right, whether that's going outside,
Yeah.
whether that is self-care practices, whether that is massage or a bath, like just listening, which is the feminine quality. Listen and feel what your body needs, and also what your emotions might be expressing. What is there any unresolved emotion that has left a residue? I love that, just knowing yourself enough to know, what do I need right now? Do I need something more yin, which is more feminine and nurturing, or do I need something more yang? Do I need to go out and take a big hike? And like that inner listening is so important, especially in partnership as well, so that you can articulate, hey, I need something fiery today, or I need something
some spicy food.
I need some, I need some salsa here, and to witness and honor that might not be the vibration in that moment that your partner is feeling. They're like, actually, what I need is a massage, and I need some downtime, quiet time, and like to cultivate within relationships, whether it's an intimate relationship or whether it's a parent-child relationship or a business partnership relationship, to cultivate that inquiry of where are you at right now? Because we're about to go into this business jam, or we're about to do this thing. Where are you at right now? How can we adapt and adjust based on your energy and my energy, so that we can find the sacred union of our energies in that moment? Because in that, you might be having a masculine core, like you said, primarily, but that might not be where you are that evening for intimacy.
Right.
Or you're like, I really just feeling I want journaling time, and date night is not really feeling the right thing. And how can that be articulated unless there is an inhabiting self, and with self-awareness? I love, you've given me lots of new perspectives and ideas and resources to just, and different ways to look at things within the feminine and masculine. And I want to celebrate the transformation that you've made, so that you can shine a path from a dark place to a light place, that you can be a role model and a guide for people that are going through this transformation in a very safe, intelligent, integrity space. That is, I really feel that from you from day one, and really recognize the work that you're doing. And no wonder so many people are following and finding you to be able to be supported through their transformation.
I received that. Thank you.
See how good your feminine is. You're like, I can receive, instead of saying, oh, no. Like, that's very beautiful. Because
it's a gift from you. Of course I want to receive that, It's like, why would I deny that?
Exactly. And so thank you for everything that you're doing. And
thank you. for all the service that you do and the beautiful home that you provided us when we were staying here, and just a beautiful light that you are in the world.
Oh, thank you. I received that. See, I received that as well. And I know that you're going to continue doing wonderful things. There's no other way for you. There's no other way for me.
There's no more going back to sleep.
No, no. And one of the things I want to just mention real quick that you said is that the joy returned when you excavate pain and anger and sedation and, that the victim and the wounds, when you excavate that and heal it, the flower that comes from that is joy and a whole nother level of love. And so just for those people that are in the process or beginning the process or challenged in some way with the journey of transformation, know that there's beautiful things on the other side, and healthier relationships and a healthier relationship with self and a lot of laughter. I laugh a lot more, and it doesn't mean I don't get triggered. Boy, I totally,
we need those triggers.
I am still very human on the journey. And oh, by the way, we have a free gift for everybody. I didn't mention that before, but we have this wonderful free gift that is a guided visualization to balance the feminine and masculine energies within. So go get that free gift and a discount on the feminine and masculine course that we have online. So go check that out, and definitely go. We'll have a link in the show notes to Jake's podcast, the one that we did, number 68 on the Awake with Jake podcast. So go check that out. And that was on conscious relationships. And we both shared a lot of juicy stuff on that podcast. Any other parting tips you have about balancing the feminine and masculine, or anything you want listeners to know, where they can find you and
I think
support
that
for the journey?
It's important that everybody is just, their understanding of their own timeline and where they are is perfect.
Yeah.
And also of other people's timelines, and to not force and project your opinions onto other people, because if someone's not receptive and you're just constantly projecting from your ego, you're going against the grain of the universe. And it's important to know that the best thing that you can do for anybody else is to work on yourself and to be that pure vibration of love, be the embodiment of love and consciousness. Because when you are that, you inspire other people to open and heal without even words, without even speaking. It's just your vibration, your energy alone is what cracks heart open. Yeah. And so just continue to work on yourself, continue to have compassion for yourself and compassion for other people who are also going through their own inner transformation. I know that may be very difficult sometimes, but work with your triggers. Allow yourself to really feel those triggers as a teaching. Yeah,
that's great advice. That triggers as a teaching, and to let somebody be where they are, because otherwise everything that you said, the judgment and that, it's all in the toxic masculine trying to force someone awake, or the toxic feminine would try to shame somebody awake. That's not going to work. People are where they are, and that level of acceptance doesn't mean you agree with their choices, but you accept where they are and their right to choose where they are, which might still be in a pattern of addiction or abuse or blame. And it's like, well, I've been there, you've been there, we've been that asleep. And from that place, that opens the door of compassion, of recognizing, oh yeah, I've done those things, maybe differently, but yeah, I can relate to addiction, being a jerk, like blame, all of it.
Yeah. Been there.
Yeah. Take your time and be gentle, and that's wonderful advice. Jake, I love you, brother, and I'm so grateful for another beautiful light in the world, shining the path so that we can raise our vibration and have more joy and more love on the planet. So where can people find you, my dear?
Instagram _Jake Woodard, WOODARD, and then my podcast, The Awake with Jake Show.
Yes.
You listen to podcasts, which you do if you're here.
Yes.
We got like 220 episodes, and we had a great episode interview as well, and guided meditations on there and stuff like that. Really all about inner transformation and masculine and feminine energies, conscious sexuality, stuff like that, inner child work. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Good. Oh, you're my people, bro. You are my people. And if you're listening, you're welcome to introduce you. You're welcome to have introduced you to another beautiful brother that you can follow that will bring medicine to your soul for sure, for the transformational journey. Thank you, everybody. Make sure to go, if this was powerful, if it was meaningful, if you got something out of this, please share it. Go subscribe. Make sure that you get the latest podcasts when they are coming out live. And definitely go give us a rave review. This helps other people find the podcast. It helps us reach more people. Your support matters, so that we can keep doing this. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your own personal development and investing in this time for your own transformational empowerment. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.